does a child like that end up in a place like this? What pushes people to leave everything they know, risking their lives for the future that's anything but certain? Hey everyone, welcome to Unseen Scars, a podcast where we talk about the hidden struggle of migrants, stories that often go unnoticed or unspoken. Today, we are diving into something that's incredibly important but often overlooked: the psychological and physical effects on people who migrate, who make a dangerous journey, risking their lives for future that's anything but certain. Joining me today, Mr. Nzamul Khan, Mr. Hassan Raza Bhutto, and Mr. Munir. Welcome to the show. When we think about migration, we hear about numbers, statistics, policies, and borders. But behind those numbers are real people. People like thousands of men, women, and children who risk everything to cross Mediterranean in search of better life. For many, the journey starts in a place where poverty, political instability, and violence push people to take a life threatening risk. But what happens to them when they finally reach to the shores of Europe? And more importantly, what scars, both visible and invisible, do they carry with them? Yes. The psychological toll of such journey is hard to put into words. We are talking about weeks of uncertainty, fear, traumas. Many of these migrants have experienced the worst humanity has to offer: violence, loss, and abuse. Long before they ever set foot on a boat, the sea, in many ways, is just another chapter in their life and the story of survival. But it's brutal one. The threat of drowning, the exhaustion and overcrowding on risky boats, the constant fear of being caught by authorities. It's a nightmare they live every day. But the real impact of the journey, it's the scars that are not always seen. It's the mental toll, the trauma that follows them long after they have arrived. PTSD, depression, anxiety, and deep sense of loss. It's something that too many migrants carry with them, often without support or a source to heal. In this episode, we will be looking at these hidden scars, the ones that don't show up in the photos or headlines. We will be talking to the experts, survivors, and those who are working to help heal them. We will be explore how these experiences shape not just their physical health but their entire future. How they cope, rebuild, and try to make a new life in a foreign land. This is a story about survival, yes, but also about resilience and hope. So let's take a closer look to the unseen scars that come with crossing the sea. Moving towards my colleague, Mr. Muhammad Inzamul Khan. So my question is, how do the condition on this journey impact their physical health? And how can healthcare system better support the physical health needs of migrants?
Thank you, Faiza. I want to take you on the road they take, not though a map, but though the body. Imagine walking for days in blistering heat, your feet crack and bleeding, your lips dry, you cross desert at night to avoid patrols, you hide in containers where the air grows thin, you sit in boats packed beyond capacity, surrounded by silence and prayers. This is not travel, this is torment. The journey of an illegal traveler is one of adversity, peril, physical pain, and tears. It is a journey of indefinite route, length, cost, and destination. You do not know what to expect, and no one expect you. Not all border crosses face similar level of danger. Of course, as political circumstances, geopolitical factors, gender, companions, and the mode of crossing all play a part. But borders, especially those separating the rich from the poor world, demand sacrifice. The Mediterranean Sea has turned into a cemetery for transgressive travelers. Floating dead bodies, washing up on shoes are evidence of border necropolitics, where the border regime exercises power not though the right to kill, but though the right to expose to death. Borders are willing to tolerate casualties. The route often entails great risks, particularly where borders are heavily militarized. The physical toll is immense: exhaustion, dehydration, injuries, and the trauma of witnessing others suffer or die. This is the physical reality of journey by land and sea.
Absolutely right. That's a great way to look at it. Again, Mr. Khan, what do you think about how the trauma of their journey impact their mental well-being?
When we talk about migration in regular or irregular ways, we often hear about the boats, the borders, the bureaucracy. But what we don't always hear is the silence that follows the trauma, the silence of mental collapse. Many undocumented migrants who arrive in Italy or other parts of the European Union, though irregular journeys by sea, across desert, though forests carry deep invisible wounds, no just in their bodies but in their minds. A 2022 study by Médecins Sans Frontiere found that over 60% of migrants arriving in Italy by sea showed signs of psychological distress, depression, anxiety, even post traumatic stress disorder. Another report by the Riva Network, funded by the European Union, found that more than one third of irregular migrants had experienced torture, abuse, or sexual violence, often in places like Libya or border detention camps. Yet, mental health is rarely addressed. Most never see a therapist. Most suffer in silence. Why does this happen? Because trauma doesn't come from one single moment. It's an accumulation. It's leaving behind your family and identity. It's watching friends die at sea. It's hiding from police, fearing deportation, living with the uncertainty day after day. And then once they arrive, they face overcrowded shelters, legal limbo, and social isolation. A young man from Bangladesh told us something I will never forget. He said, I see the sea when I close my eyes. I feel like I am drawing again and again. This is not just sadness. This is chronic insomnia, panic attacks, social withdrawals, thought of self harm. An anthropologist named Sharam Khosravi, in his book Illegal Traveler, captures this type of suffering very beautifully. This is not just a physical act, it's mental, it's stress, it's the anxiety of being hunted without ever committing a crime. That is the silent collapse. And it is also a legal failure. According to Article 35 of the European Union Charter of Fundamental Rights, everyone has the right to health care, including mental health care. Under Article 17 of the Reception Conditions Directives 2013 by 33 by European Union, member state must provide necessary medical treatment including care of serious mental health issues to asylum seekers. But many undocumented migrants fall outside these protections. They are not always asylum seekers. They live in legal gray zone. They are often denied care not because they don't need it, but because of their status. And these too can be a violation. Article 3 of the European Convention on Human Rights prohibits inhuman or degrading treatment, ignoring deep psychological suffering, especially when the state is aware, can cross that line. A 2021 statement by the World Health Organization reminds us migrants and refugees are more vulnerable to mental disorders such as depression, anxiety, and post traumatic stress disorder (PTSD). And yet, according to the Italian Society of Migration Medicine, over 70% of undocumented migrants with psychological symptoms have never received professional care. This is the silent collapse I'm talking about. It's like a house. On the outside, it looks fine, but inside, the walls are falling apart. There is a hope. Organizations like Centropeng in Palermo and Doctors for Human Rights in Rome are offering care, therapy, and dignity. But they are not enough. Mental health must be part of the core response to migration, not an optional extra.
Thank you, Mr. Khan, for your powerful message. Your words remind us that even after the crossing the borders, the hardest part might just be beginning.
Yes, the body may have arrived, but the mind is still swimming.
The journey is not end there. So, Mr. Munir, tell us about their life after arrival. Do they have long journey to survive?
Thank you, Faiza Patul, for giving me this opportunity. The crucial part life after arrival and support. Arriving in Europe is not the end of struggle, it is merely a shift in the challenges faced. For many undocumented migrants, life after arrival is marked by invisibility, fear, and exclusion. The conditions of illegality results in docility. Undocumented migrants are so afraid of doing anything wrong that they does not even dare to jaywalk. Ironically, they may exemplify the impeccable citizen out of fear. This constant state of fear limits their lives and interactions. Often they avoid city centers, public places, and entertainment venues. The asylum process itself is incredibly challenging. To have a chance at refugee status, one must translate their life story into Eurocentric juridical language and perform the role expected of a refugee. You are often advised to look sad, profound, and wear dirty colors to appear as a real refugee. There's a culture of disbelief in the asylum system where authorities aim to discredit claims by finding discrepancies, sometimes focusing on the journey itself rather than the reasons for flight. A tiny mistake or inconsistency can lead to rejection. Migrants are often seen as helpless, speechless, needing others to speak for them. However, some strategically perform victimcy as a form of self representation to navigate the system. Exclusion from healthcare system is a significant issue, especially for undocumented female migrants with serious consequences during pregnancy. Denying healthcare is seen by some as an attempt to govern the reproduction of an undesirable population. Female migrants are sometimes explicitly advised not to get pregnant. Despite these immense challenges, there are flickers of hope. Some find support through kind volunteers or organizations. The church, for example, can play a role, sometimes even sheltering undocumented migrants. There are networks of shared trauma that bind migrants together, like war veterans. They use communication channels from personal networks to social media to find co travelers. To understand the role of support within this difficult context, we spoke with a cultural mediator.
We are joined now by a culture mediator working in Italy. Thank you for sharing your perspective. How do culture mediators help migrants navigate the challenges they face after arrival, both in terms of practical issues and psychological well being?
Can you explain what a cultural mediator is and what your role involves, especially when migrants first arrive by sea? A cultural mediator is like a bridge between people who arrive and the system that receives them. When migrants land by sea, we are often the first ones they talk to in their own language. We try to help calm them, explain where they are, what's happening, and support communication with the authorities. It is a critical moment because they are often scared, tired, and also confused. Question number two. How do you help with the communication between migrants and medical or legal staff? I don't just translate words, I explain what people mean, how they feel, and what they are going through. For example, if someone talks about chest pain, I help doctors or medical staff understand if it's a physical or maybe stress related. With legal staff, I explain rights and procedures in a simple way. It's about creating real understanding on both sides. What challenges do you face in building trust with migrants who may be frightened, traumatized, or disoriented? Many migrants are traumatized or scared. They've seen a lot and they don't know who to trust. The uniform, the setting, it can be intimidating. I try to connect as a human being first. I speak calmly, respectfully, and let them know I'm here to help, not to judge or harm them. And I show them that I am also one of them since I speak the same language in order to gain their trust. What are the first needs you usually help migrants with once they land in Italy? Basic thing first: water, food, dry clothes, medical attention. I can only just be a reference point since I'm a cultural mediator. I'm not allowed to deliver food, dry clothes, or water, or any other things they need. I can only be a point for reference. I just talk with the other staff what they need, especially when they need medical attention. But emotional needs are just as urgent. Many arrive exhausted, in shock, or overwhelmed. And just listening, explaining what's going on, and being kind can make a big difference. How do you help them understand and access healthcare, particularly mental health services? Many people don't know how the system works or are afraid of it. I explain in a simple way, step by step. With mental health, I often say, you have been through a lot. Talking about it can help you feel better. I try to reduce fear or shame around the topic. Can you describe a typical day in your work with newly arrived migrants? There is no routine. Every day is different. Arrivals can happen at any time in 24 hours. It can be morning, during the day, in the afternoon, or during the night. Some days we are at the port from early morning, supporting disembarkations. Other days we are at reception centers helping with interviews, sometimes medical checks, or just listening. It is intense, unpredictable, but meaningful work. How do cultural beliefs or stigmas about mental health affect a migrant's willingness to seek help? Unfortunately, in many cultures, mental health is not talked about. Some think it is a weakness or something to hide. That makes it hard to ask for help. So we try to normalize it like we would with a physical illness. It's okay to feel bad after all they have been through. Are there differences in how men and women migrants express distress or trauma? And how do you adapt your approach accordingly? Yes, often men might keep it inside, try to stay strong, and women might express more, but they are often more vulnerable. I adjust depending on the person by being extra sensitive, creating a safe space, and going at their pace. How do you handle cases where migrant has experienced severe trauma or violence during their journey? With a lot of care, I do not rush them or ask too much. Just listening and showing respect can help. And when needed, I connect them with professionals who can give proper psychological support. My job is to open that door, not to push them through it. Plus, I should also take care of myself and my other colleagues because we could suffer from vicarious trauma and we are well aware of it and we try our best to not get affected by it. Do you think the system provides enough support for migrants, psychological and physical recovery? And what is missing? There is some support, but I believe it is not enough, especially for mental health. Services are very limited and people could fall through the cracks. We need more long-term care, more staff, and a system that treats people not just as numbers, but as human beings with real stories. How do you support women specifically, especially those who may have survived gender based violence, or exploitation. I'm very careful. I give them space, privacy, and control over the conversation. I speak gently and never pressure them when possible. I involve female professionals to make them feel safer, if I could. They need to feel respected and not judged. The final question: what do you wish more people understood about the work you do and the reality migrants face upon arrival? I would say that this work is about people, it's not paperwork, and migrants are human beings with strength, dignity, and pain. And being a mediator is not just about speaking different languages, it's about building trust. It's about showing sympathy. It's about easing their fear and helping people take their first steps into a very new life.
Thank you. It's clear that the culture mediator provides a vital bridge for migrants in a complex and often unwelcoming environment. Now it's time to hear from someone who lived what we have been talking about. We are deeply honored to be joined by Mr. Ali, who came from Pakistan by land and sea, crossing through Libya before arriving in Italy. Mr. Ali, thank you for being here. Can you share with us why you left and what your journey was like?
My name is Ali. I'm 29 years old, and my story begins in a place I loved, my home in Kurram Agency, Pakistan. But for me and my family, home had become a hunting ground. The hunters, the Taliban, they wanted to date us, simply as that, and they weren't making idle threats. I was the only man in the house, the only one supporting my family. My family life wasn't just my own, it was their lifeline, and fear was a constant weight, a shadow that never lifted. Every sunrise brought the question: would this be our last? My older brother saw it too. He knew I had to go. Staying meant a certain death, not just for me, but potentially for them too. The only option was to disappear, to vanish from the map. The way out was illegal, dangerous, a gamble known as donkey. No visas, no tickets, just a brutal path through the shadows, relying on agents who trade in human hope and fear. I knew it was risky, but the alternative was granted extinction. What I didn't know was the true face of that risk, the sheer abyss I was about to step into. One night, like any other, I was sleeping peacefully, or as peacefully as you can sleep when waiting for killers. My brothers woke me with a hastened urgency. No long goodbyes, no lingering moments. He just handed me a bag. Inside, two changes of clothes, a single pair of shoes, and a few essentials. That was it. That was my entire world, packed into one small bag. Everything else, my family, my home, my past, had to be left behind. A car waited outside at 3 a.m. In the dead of night, it whisked me away, not to a proper airport check in, but into the dark unknown. Fast stop, Faisalabad Airport, and then, unbelievably, a flight to Saudi Arabia. I landed in Saudi Arabia 24 hours. I hadn't eaten since leaving my family home. The knot in my stomach wasn't just hunger, it was terror and confusion. I was just a parcel being moved. There, I met other parcels, fellow souls desperate enough to risk everything. We were handed over to another agent. Our next destination? I had no idea. Literally, no clue where I was being taken. He drove us by road to Kuwait. The journey felt like a dream, a disorienting, terrifying dream. Every mile was a step further into uncertainty. Where are we going? What awaited us? From Kuwait, they moved us again. This time, Egypt, another 24 hours. My meal? a single bun, and a small bottle of water. After days of this, my body was screaming, my mind was reeling. I was starving, yes, but more than that, I was being dehumanized, reduced to just another piece of cargo. In Egypt, a new agent, this one took us by plane to Libya, landing at Benghazi airport. From there, another driver. 14 hours of straight, no stops, just driving, driving through the desert night. I hadn't slept in 2 days. My body was breaking down, but my mind was a relentless loop of fear for the family I had left behind. Was this worth it? Was I just driving towards a different kind of death? Our destination, Tripoli, the capital of Libya. We were taken to what the agent called a shelter house. Shelter? It was a prison, a single room, no windows, no ventilation, and packed inside 37 men, 37 stories of desperation from different countries, all feeling something equally terrifying. We were kept there for 30 days. 30 days in darkness. We weren't allowed to leave the room. Once a day, a man would slide in barely enough food and water for some of us, let alone all 37. Then he would lock us back in from the outside. We were ghosts, invisible to the world, trapped in a box of disappear. After those 30 days, they moved us again, eyes covered, like being kidnapped. I don't even remember the name of the place. All know I is the darkness continued. I spent another 90 days there. 90 days without seeing sun. The conditions were even worse than Tripoli. Food came once a week, delivered by boat because this place was so remote. So cut off from civilization, the room became our everything, our prison, our eating place, our washroom. It was truly hell on earth. Through all this suffering, the ultimate betrayal struck. My agent, the on paid to get me to safety. He abandoned me just like that, left me in that forgotten, lightless hellhole. By some miracle, I managed to contact my family. They were devastated, but they didn't give up. They escaped together another 4 million Pakistani rupees, an impossible sum, and found another agent. This new agent brought me back to Tripoli. I spent another 15 days in Tripoli. It was bad, yes, but after the previous 90 days in absolute darkness, I felt less worse, a twisted kind of relief. Then came the world, Italy. We were finally going to Italy by ship. Hope flickered, fragile, but real. We were taken to the coast, but there was no dock, no easy boarding. The agent pointed a small boat in the dark water and told us to swim to it. Swim? At 3 a.m. into the black, freezing sea? We swam for 30 minutes, paddling through the icy darkness towards a small, overloaded vessel bobbing precariously. When we finally clambered aboard, reality hit like a wave. The boat was tiny, meant for maybe 10 people max, and we were 37. As the boat started to pull away from the shore, going under the impossible weight, and then it happened. With sickening lawns, the boat didn't just tilt, it flipped, capsized in an instant. We are all back in the water. But this time, it wasn't a swim to a boat. It was fight for life in the open sea. Chaos, screams, swallowed by the night. The black water churning with struggling bodies. 37 people. When the disparate flapping stopped, when the initial shock subsidized, we started counting or trying to 20 people gone, drawn in front of my eyes. In that moment, floating amongst the dying and the dead, the full horror crashed down on me. I had left my home to escape death, only to find it here, in the middle of the sea, the Taliban or the Mediterranean. Was this the choice I had really made? Death was everywhere. Those of us who were left, just 17 souls, clung to everything that floated, to each other. We spent 17 hours in that water, 17 hours of cold, fear, and watching the bodies of those who didn't make it drift past. No rescue boats, no help, just the vast, indifferent sea. Then a sound, a siren, at 10 p.m. in the next day. Hope surged. Rescue. But as the vessel came into sight, our hope died again. It wasn't a rescue ship, it was the Libyan police. They pulled us out of the water. Those who were dead were taken away in coffins. Those of us who survived, we are all taken to jail. And there, the nightmare reached a new level of brutality. They beat us severely. They hung us upside down our feet and beat us non-stop for 2, 3 hours, asking questions in a language I didn't understand. For crimes I didn't commit. What was happening? I had no idea. Just the pain, the fear, the absolute powerlessness. 15 days. We spent 15 days in the jail, beaten day and night. No food, no water, just relentless punishment. For what? For surviving? Again, somehow, our agent managed to get us out. Back to his house, we begged for food. After a long wait, he finally gave us something. He told us he was waiting for the right time to try for Italy again. After another 15 days, that night came, midnight. This time, we boarded a proper, though still difficult, ferry. A long, tense journey across the sea. And then, after what felt like an eternity of darkness, fear, and suffering, dawn, and I land Italy. We arrived at 8 a.m., and there, on the shore, were people who didn't beat us, who didn't imprison us, who didn't abandon us. They received us, and for the first time in what felt like forever, they gave us food, the real food.
Thank you, Mr. Ali. Your story is a reminder that behind every migrant is a name, a voice, a heart that's been broken, but it still beats. So, what do we do with what we have heard today? Do we cry or move on? Or do we wake up? Because silence is complicity. We have discussed the unseen scars, the physical and psychological toll, the dehumanization. We have heard how stateless individuals, undocumented migrants, and failed asylum seekers are treated as bed waste and between, presented as populated bodies, and can become the dictators of humanity, leading wasted lives. We need to change laws. We need to offer mental health support. We need to open legal pathways for migration. And more than anything, we need to see migrants as people, not the problem. We live in a world where borders are guarded more than lives. The modern nation state has claimed the right to preside over the distinction between useful and wasted lives. But migrants are not just resource consumers, they are workers, taxpayers, customers, and users. Refugees are made, not born. Refugees is a matter of becoming. If we ignore their pain, we will be remembered not by what we built, but by whom we abandoned. Let's build a Europe that heals, the system that listens, a community that reaches out. The idea of a state without territory is explored in some sources, suggesting it might be possible to imagine political communities and structures are not bound by restrictive, excluding borders but united by roots, yet to be traveled. While theoretical, such idea challenges the very concept that lead to the suffering we have discussed. And those who walked, swim, hide, and hoped, you matter. Your scars are unseen, but your courage is unforgettable. As the author of one source collected stories of illegal stateless people, failed asylum seekers, undocumented and unregistered people picking up the refugee of history to gain a new perspective, we too must listen to these stories. Thank you for your listening to this powerful episode of Unseen Scars. Please share this to refugee aids. Speak up when you hear hate because these voices must echo until something change. Until next time, stay kind, stay aware, and most of all, stay human.